I'm here. Hello, hello. Slightly different setup here with the face cam. Bit more full-bodied, right? Yeah, it's a big day, huh? Big day. Let's clean these glasses. Make sure they're actually clean. Probably should have done this before the stream, but oh man, start looking at some charts and you're like, what's that shit on my something on the glasses, right? Okay, we are set, we are ready to go. Man, what the hell is Pakistan thinking? They're kind of getting so many people out of what I think are really good traits right now with the, good on them for trying to actually come to some kind of ceasefire, right? But we've been trying for a whole month. Now they want a 2-week ceasefire for what? For what exactly? So that the US doesn't blow them up? I mean, sure. But then we don't want them moving uranium around, right? So if they start moving uranium around, it's going to be kind of all for naught, right? All for naught. Let's see here. Studio mode, face cam. Make sure that all my stuff is in the right place. Okay. Let's see here. Research form. Make that a little bigger. Sweet. All right, now we can transition. So we got the chart here, euro dollar on the left, right behind me. And we have our research forum here. So we have Trump Watch. Trump posted some stuff. What did Trump say? Yeah, if you don't like going on and making sure you have like Truth Social notifications on your phone, right? What you got to do is get into the Discord and follow this Trump Watch research forum thread. And when you join the Discord, you can get this Trump RSS role. So then when there are new Truth Social posts, you can get pinged through Discord through the Blend the Profit server. And you join the server in the WAP through the link in the description. And then it's free. While you're there, sign up for my trading group, right? Get the indicators and whatnot that we'll be going over. So this is a political endorsement. This is a political endorsement. That's a political endorsement. That's a political endorsement. That's a political endorsement. So these are all just political endorsements right now. Nothing incredibly new. Yeah. Nothing terribly new here related to Operation Epic Fury. Let's see here, newsfeed. There's a lot of stuff coming down the newsfeed. Let's zoom in here just a tad more. Iran's top joint military command. That sounds important. Will deal with infrastructure of U.S. and its allies in the region in a way that will deprive them of the region's oil and gas for years. I don't know about you guys, but when Pakistan says, oh, we're going to come to a 2-week proposal, right? Literally up here, Trump on Fox News responding to Pakistan's 2-week ceasefire proposal. Trump says I can't comment because right now we're in heated negotiations. And then the IRGC effectively comes out and says, we don't care. We're still going to blow your shit up. I'm not so inclined to think that Pakistan is going to be successful in getting this ceasefire. And what you've actually seen on the charts, look at this. There's been this huge run up here on this news. This whole thing. This is all Pakistan coming out and saying, hey guys, hey, stop shooting each other. Stop it. And I don't think Pakistan's going to be able to really get it done. So I'm more or less in favor of fading this. But Lord knows, some guys who were short here or short here, like I've been, are thinking, oh man, is there some deal that's going to get done here in the next little bit? I'm not sold. I don't think Pakistan's going to be able to. I don't think Pakistan's going to be able to do it. Don't think the Pakis are going to be able to do it. Let's see here. Hello, Ani and Ari. Always nice to see you two here. Always appreciate seeing you two around. Absolutely. Oh, man. Oh, man. I got to do a little refresh. I think my stream's like lagged behind me. Yeah, so we're 9 minutes in. As far as trade plans go, the idea from my end is to fade. So if we go to crude and we see crude, it should be down, right? Yeah, crude's down. I would not be surprised if by tomorrow we're potentially making new highs, because one thing that some people have either not been paying as much attention to or simply don't know. I mean, it's kind of your responsibility to know if you're trading what's going on. But just follow the news. When people say, "Oh, I need to do my geopolitical analysis," dude, that's just reading the newspaper. That's just reading this news feed right here from Financial Juice. And if you don't really have time for that, there are communities like mine where we go through topic by topic the different geopolitical events in the world. I mean, what about this right here? JD Vance was just in Hungary at a rally for Viktor Orban giving support, and he put Trump on the phone. And Trump was like, oh man, I love Orban. I endorse him so much. He's helped out Hungary so much. That's why I totally endorse him. And so JD Vance is there in Hungary. And I don't know if you know this, but when JD Vance first came to the White House, he gave a few really important speeches, some kind of, frankly, still historical speeches. I think he made some European ambassadors cry from his speech, if I recall correctly, right? Deadline ETA in 5 hours? I think so. Yeah, the ETA is going to be really, really shortly. Actually, it's 8. If off the top of my head, I know I was talking about, like, hey, the Discord is so great, the research forums are so useful. And look at this example right here. But we have something going on right now with this, so it's kind of important to kind of shift to what you brought up, Ari. It's, I believe, if I recall correctly, 8 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Pacific, which is a little under 3 hours from now. 2 hours and 50 minutes, if my clocks are correct. 2 hours and 50 minutes. Or I think it's, Tuesday at 8 Eastern. I believe that was it. Man, look at all these threads. Canada municipal elections, French Senate elections. Yeah, these are much later. Oh, there's no pinned message here? Oh, that's right. I got to pin this thing. We always pin the very first message. And we put the Wikipedia page to the thing, and we put polls. Actually, I think there's like the UK stuff here. Let's see here. Where's the UK? Is it gone? Here's the midterm elections for the United States. And we have a pin for that, and you can jump to it. We set this thread up in 2024. That's how closely we've been following the midterm elections. Literally before Trump, I think after Trump won, this is after the election, yeah. This is after the presidential election in 2024. We immediately started doing research on the 2026 midterms. This thread is going to be very, very old. And you can see, right? All these 2026 posts. All these 2026 posts. From back in 2024. Oh, man. Yeah, we follow stuff pretty hardcore here. And then we have this thread that's also many years old, Houthi in Yemen. And so this is going to be the big thing. They're going to shut down the Bab el-Mandeb. Bab el-Mandeb, right? Let's try not jumping around so much, but to get back on point with this, with crude, and with all these assets purportedly going to really shit the bed as soon as Trump goes back in, my expectation for why I would be in favor of fading these assets. Oh, don't want to open that. I wanted that. There we go. Is because the Houthi in Yemen have already said that they're ready to cut off the Bab el-Mandeb. I should say that better. Bab el-Mandeb Strait. If, quote, the U.S. starts their new bombing campaign against Iranian energy and transportation infrastructure. So we're not just going to have this issue with the Strait of Hormuz also being closed and the humanitarian crisis going on with all of these crews of all these ships stuck in the Persian Gulf, because you know all these ships, all these guys are stuck, right? All the people on these ships, there's tens of thousands of people on those ships, and they're just fucking sitting out there watching drones fly above their ships back and forth. It's a big issue. And some of those people need medical attention. I mean, from what I understand, a bunch of the shipping companies are doing what they can to, like, covertly fly helicopters and small ships to those people, just so they don't run out of, like, food and water. But you don't want those ships out there for a long time. That will turn into another humanitarian crisis if the strait is closed for, like, many, many, many more months, potentially. But the Bab el-Mandeb, I have some numbers here. 12% of all global shipping and 5% of all energy shipping goes through Bab el-Mandeb. Maybe I could, like, pull up a map. Would that be helpful? Should I actually pull up a map for the Bab el-Mandeb? I think, Ari knows where the hell it is. I know where the hell it is. If you know where the Red Sea is, it's south of the Red Sea. And, man, the Saudis are pissed. The Saudis are really, really pissed about it. Because when the Strait of Hormuz closed, they started filling up this east-west pipeline so that then they can offload crude into the Red Sea to circumvent the Strait of Hormuz, right? Oh, yeah, and there was that attack in the Suez Canal. No, not the Suez Canal. Panama Canal had, not an attack, had a gas explosion. My bad. I'm thinking about that. That's actually relatively new. There was a gas explosion in the Panama Canal, and some people were afraid that actually would shut that off. Suez Canal. No. Suez is not the strait. The strait's way wider than Bab el. Yeah. Suez, I thought Suez was to the north. Right? Suez. Yeah. Yeah, Suez Canal's to the north of the Red Sea. It's where Egypt is. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have my geography mixed up, my man. Suez is to the north. Bab el is to the south. And Yemen is to the south as well. That's why they have access to interfere with shipping through. But yeah. When 12% of all global shipping and 5% of all shipped energy products pass through Bab el Mandeb, the Saudis are going to be very, very unhappy as well, because they also are going to have their port, Yanbu, which is where the East-West pipeline unloads all of its oil. It's going to be really bad for the Saudis and, frankly, the rest of the world. Because now you're going to be cutting off an extra 5% of the global energy supply and then 12% of all global shipping on top of that. So it's not just like, oh, this little corridor, the Hormuz Strait, it is little, but it has a big impact energy-wise, right? Very important if Banal is blocked, and so is Suez. Yeah. That's correct. There'll be a lot less ships going through the Suez if Bab el Mandeb is also, yeah, that's right, north to south. Yeah. Now there is actually some ships. So if the Houthis follow through on their word and start shooting ships that pass through, and then that closes the Bab el Mandeb Strait in response to the U.S. going in and attacking Iranian energy and transportation infrastructure, then the only ships that are really going to be useful is the ships that are able to come from the Suez, from the north, like you were saying, Ari, and then load oil and then go back through the Suez. So it's not north to south. They go south from the Suez, load up at Yanbu, and then they go back through the Suez. And there's only a few ships that can do that, because not every ship can actually pass through the Suez Canal. There's not that many. So there would be quite a hit to the amount of energy that we currently have. It would make energy prices, and actually the prices of a lot of other products that were going through Bab el, through Suez, into Europe and whatnot. I mean, this is really going to, this is really going to hurt China. Because again, 12% of global trade, a lot of that actually is China. So it's not just energy that's going to get impacted here if the Houthis actually do this. So we're focusing on the Houthis right now because that's the reason, that's the mechanism and the justification I have for doing stuff like, hey, here's Eurodollar. Why would I be interested in fading this or holding onto this short? Well, I can look at my indicator and say, hey, you know, a lot of tops come in around here, and if you do go higher, you're going to probably go to like 60. Let's like zoom in a bit. And we can do that as well. 116.5. That's around here in the distribution of where tops for the week come in. So if you go past a little bit higher, you're now in a trough and you're more likely to go to the next peak. But I think this thing's going to fall like a brick once the U.S. actually goes in. Because of not just continued fighting and quote-unquote geopolitical breakdown and conflict and continuation of the operation, but now because the Houthis have said that they will join the war. And now you're going to have this extra constraint. You're going to have this extra strait cut off. More of the world economy is going to effectively be embargoed by terrorists. Because this is not the... Guys, we set up this thread, and Ari and I have been working on this particular thread, Red Sea, the Houthis in Yemen, for a long time. Look, this is December 20th of 2024. This is old. So, look at this. December 21st, 2024. CENTCOM conducts airstrikes against Iran-backed Houthi missile storage and command control facilities in Yemen. So, no duh, the Houthis are going to be backing the people who have backed them for so long, right? And if the Islamic Republic falls and is replaced, the Houthis are going to be a fish out of water money-wise. They need money to keep their own regime going. And they get that from the Iranians. And if the Islamic Republic isn't in charge of Iran anymore, they're not going to be sending the money to the Houthis. So, in a sense, the U.S. is actually killing multiple birds with one stone. By getting rid of Iran, you're getting rid of all the Iranian-backed and funded terror cells. Now, they likely still would need to be cleaned up, but when you take away their capability to fund their war, to get new supplies, you make it a lot easier to put them under siege effectively. They could be around for many, many years to come, but over time, because they're not able to afford to replace equipment and people, because they can't buy people anymore, frankly, they can't buy propaganda, they can't bribe people with money that they're receiving, it becomes a lot harder for them to conduct business and justify their authority. Now, terrorists are terrorists. They're going to still try and murder, maim, kill as their way to justify and have authority. But, you know, a lot of people from these terrorist groups are bribed. They're not necessarily, they're threatened and they're bribed. If you're familiar with like American mobsters, they would do that very frequently. They'd say, you can work with us or we can break your kneecaps. And so you'd work with them and you get paid and you become an accomplice of theirs. And what would happen to a lot of these people dealing with these terrorists is they would then become accomplices of the terrorists and be put onto terrorist watch lists. And then they'd be drug further deep into the terrorist network and sphere of influence. But once you remove the money, a lot of the business falls apart, and then all the people who were coerced into having allegiances with these terrorist organizations can actually start to back off and protect themselves much more easily. Not that some people definitely won't get hurt. I completely would expect some people to still get hurt. Even, just because you don't have money doesn't mean you can't do stuff. But yeah. So yeah, it's very nice to have these research threads going on for so long. Oh, and there was a vote in Canada recently for separatism. In Alberta, they now have on the next ballot or on the next vote, sometime in the future this year, there's a referendum for Albertan independence. So that's why we have the Canada Alberta separatism thread here. Very, very nice. Very nice to be following this. Pretty soon, America might have two hats. America might have a hat within a hat. I always kind of thought that analogy was kind of funny, because then what is Alaska if not Canada's hat? I mean, maybe it's like Canada's ponytail. I don't know. But yeah. So what other trades can we find out? So what assets have performed well since the Pakistanis have tried to negotiate a ceasefire and have been very public about it? What markets have bounced in response to that probably the most? We can check out NQ. And you can see NASDAQ actually has been incredibly choppy. Incredibly choppy. I would have hated to trade this. Oh my God. That is just so volatile, man. This looks like a crypto chart. That looks like an inverse BART a little bit. Not quite. But it looks BART-ish. With the straight down volatile movement and then the straight up jump, right? Looks BART-ish. Speaking of, let's check out Bitcoin and do the all-time history index. It's also jumped up in response to Pakistan, right? Pakistan's negotiations. So Bitcoin might also be a fade, right? Because again, remember, as energy gets constricted and as energy prices increase, for a lot of miners, they can't continue mining because the energy costs of mining go up. Now, there's a lot of places that have subsidized, practically quote unquote free energy from their government. There's a lot of places like that in the world. But man, there's not that many places. There's a lot of places in the United States doing a lot of mining. But man, I really wonder, how high do energy prices go before you start seeing miners kind of go offline, Bitcoin wise? I saw that today and I was like, there has to be news that didn't catch. Yeah, it's the stuff going on with Pakistan. So based on that, I would be more open to fading this. Frankly. Yeah, through WAP, you can get payouts in crypto. And for a second, I was like, yeah, maybe I should take out some stuff in crypto and go short. And I'm like, I don't know if it's going to move as significantly as a lot of these other assets. I think Bitcoin's going to do, even if Bitcoin goes down another 10, like if it goes sub 60K, I really don't think it's going to be a big deal. I'd rather be buying Bitcoin in the low 60s or sub 60K if that actually occurred than try and short Bitcoin at these prices. I mean, sure, it could probably be a successful trade, but I don't like shorting Bitcoin on a much more fundamental level. Yeah. I'd rather wait for the next bull market and then be leveraging long Bitcoin into the bull market. That's a lot easier to make money, in my opinion, when it comes down to Bitcoin for leverage trades. But a lot of people don't even like doing any leverage. However, you talk to most traders and they're like, what do you mean don't like leverage? But sorry, but you know what? Most people who get involved in investing, most retail people involved in investing, not retail traders. We're talking like Joe Schmo, right? You're not gonna see a lot of people do huge leverage. Yeah, and Bitcoin hasn't had a huge amount of volatility. And guess what? When the volatility is low, that induces more people to try and lever up. Essentially, in order to hit a volatility target, a return target, they increase the volatility, they increase the leverage that they use in order to reach a particular return, a particular volatility target. And then when the volatility increases in the market, they reduce their leverage at that point. Yeah. And that actually makes sense a lot, especially if you have like a portfolio that you're trying to hit particular returns on and you don't want to change the mix of the portfolio, right? Leverage can actually be a nice tool portfolio wise when you're trying to construct the portfolio with certain properties. Let's see, what else can we check out? What other assets are there? Oh, there's a lot of other assets. It's just which ones do we look at? I guess we get to choose, right? So let's do by percent change. Wow. What is this? Tattoo wall. What exchange is this? Tattoo wall. All shares. Is this? Oh, this is the Saudi Arabian equity market. Wow. So this is how today's trading went in Saudi Arabia. That's kind of ominous. Yeah. It's just fallen like a brick right there. There's a... Wow, Saudi Arabia stock market actually has been increasing. And then fell recently here. I don't quite get it. I thought that Saudi Arabia's equity market would be kind of falling through the floor. Let's see here. And this is BIST 100. So what is the BIST 100? Turkish. This is the Turkish stock market. Okay. Turkey also falling down here. Why is Saudi Arabia and Turkey down today? Wouldn't they be up based on the news from Pakistan? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The S&P is up. The NASDAQ is up today. That's kind of interesting. How about the DAX? The DAX actually fell too. It's been quite choppy. All these equity indices are quite choppy today. This is the South African equity market. Yeah, these are doing all right. The UK equity markets are doing fine. This is France. France isn't doing as well. We're just taking a quick look around the world here. And this is the Dow, right? Dow is doing okay. I don't know if it's going to actually hold up as well. What's this? IDX Composite. IDX Composite. Indonesia. Wow. Oh, wow. You can actually see Indonesia getting hit really hard since Operation Epic Fury began. They're down 16%. That's pretty bad. Yeah, we're just taking a little trip around the world, checking out what's going on in the equity indices around the world. But they've been kind of forming a bottom around here. Around, what's that, 7,000? For a second, I thought that said 7 million. I was like, I didn't quite see that decimal place as a comma yet. 7. There's an extra 0 there. Alrighty. And this is also Germany. This is Japan. Nikkei's doing okay. Okay, and this is NASDAQ. NASDAQ's doing okay. This is Brazil. Brazil covering actually pretty moderately. Wow, Brazil's equity market has just been on a rip. It's up 57% in the last like year and a quarter. Man, Brazil has been fucking kicking ass. Wow. Yeah, this is why sometimes looking at global equity indices can be so enlightening, because you get to see how the rest of the world performs. And you're like, oh man, I'm getting 20%. How smart am I? And then you look at the dude next door and he's levered. He's levered long on this for like the last year, and he's doing hundreds of percent. And you're like, oh shit. If only I knew a little bit more about the world. If only I knew a little bit more about what was going on. Maybe I could have had some exposure to this, right? And then there's the S&P. This is the actual index. The S&P index. Not a derivative or an ETF. And it's bounced. It's done all right. And then CSI 300. It rings a bell. CSI 300. Shenzhen, yes, China. I was like, CSI, I know China likes to put that, but yeah, so Shenzhen. China's been down a lot since Operation Epic Fury began. China's down 5-ish%. That's actually not so bad. That's actually not so bad. And they haven't, I mean, ignoring this wick way over here. What's that? 17th of October, 2025. So ignoring the low from that day, they haven't really cracked a new low. But if they do crack, if there's one more bounce and then a crack, kind of like this, that'd be pretty bad for China. I don't really believe that the Chinese have the most accurate economic data. I was actually just reading this huge article breaking down exactly how the Chinese lie about pretty much all of their economic data, and just, oh man, it's so bad. You know, China's got so much crap going on ethically, geopolitically, internally. They just had multiple coups against Xi Jinping in the last couple of years, and last year they had a coup fail again. And it's bad. I don't think China's in the best of places, especially demographically. I think you don't need me necessarily to say that. Let's see. What else is there? We can start looking maybe at some other charts here. What are some other expectations we can glean from here? How about for the month? Well, this is for the month. Well, at first, we can set an expectation up here. So let's timestamp this. And this is the 7th. So 04, 07. Oh, yeah, that's right. Space is there, and then we put a space here. This is 1439. So up is what I'm expecting. But more seriously, we could end up like way up. Let's just do the expectation for the week then. Excuse me. So something like this. That'd be a more moderate expectation. But I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up here, frankly. especially if the Houthis do follow through on their word. So I think I'll leave it like that, and I'll be fine. I'll be fine if I'm wrong, but I think we're going to see a bit more of an extreme, higher volatility move if the U.S. does go in later today and the Houthis respond. Let's see. Dollar CAD. Well, it's been falling here a tad. I would not be surprised to see the thing go back up there. $14.40. And then euro dollar. Well, my expectation for euro dollar is still bearish. So cracking a new low seems reasonable to me. Again, the expectation is that the Houthis come in and close the Bab el Mandeb. And if the Houthis do that, which doesn't seem to be priced in right now if we're going up, right? It's like people are saying they don't think that's actually going to happen. That they think Pakistan is going to be able to actually broker a deal. Oh, we did just get some breaking news, actually. This is why it's important to follow the squawk. Good news is expected from both sides soon. CNN cites regional official after Pakistan asks Trump to extend Iranian deadline. A regional source said some good news is expected from both sides soon, that discussions were steered directly by Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir. The source added that a deal is expected to be closed tonight. Holy shit. I may have to go back and undo these expectations now. Unless CNN is bullshitting. Here, it might be time to hop out of dollar shorts. Those dollar shorts I have. Or rather, dollar longs, rather. It's opposite day. Opposite day a little bit in my head. Is this freaking out or something? Yeah, it's freaking out. Oh, man. That is actually kind of cool. That would be so great. Because that would mean no boots on the ground. But the deal would have to involve around giving up all their nuclear material. And to effectively allow for some kind of regime change. Because now most of the leaders are dead. So there would need to be some kind of vote or referendum or whatever. And that they would have to allow NATO or some group to be on the ground to make sure that the IRGC isn't terrorizing civilians to vote to keep the Islamic Republic around. Yeah. What is it? Trump team urges relocating Afghans trapped in limbo in U.S. Middle East based. Okay. Qatar Interior Ministry. 4 injured after debris fell on a house following interception. You know, I wonder, considering we got that information that we went over at the very beginning from the IRGC, and if I could bring it back up over here. So this is, so the news still hasn't popped up here. Oh yeah, there it is. Good news expected from both sides. We can forward this to the Fall of the Islamic Republic of Iran thread. There we go. This thing here from the IRGC, we will deal with infrastructure of US and its allies in the region in a way that will deprive them of the region's oil and gas for years. I wonder if the people that Trump is negotiating with are these people. Because if they are not, we could see essentially two factions in Iran come through. And who exactly is doing the negotiating in Iran? Is it the president of Iran? Because we know from a few bits of media that he does not have a great relationship right now with the IRGC, because they're not necessarily letting him make the decisions or talk to the Ayatollah. He doesn't, the president of Iran doesn't even know if the Ayatollah is alive or not. And considering that for all intents and purposes, the guy could just be in a coma or actually dead. There's been no proof of life of the guy. Let's see. Our good news is expected from both sides soon. CNN cites a regional officer after Pakistan asked Trump to extend Iran deadline. Again, I'd like a little more confirmation on that news. A little more confirmation. But in my mind, this would be great. Please, CNN, please. Do not be bullshitting right now. Do not be bullshitting right now. Please, please. Do not trust CNN and don't trust local somebody. They're passing notes through children. Want to hear from Trump. Untruth Social. Or I want to see it spread all across X from multiple Iranian parties. I 100% agree. I 100% agree. Look, my net expectation right now is if that is real, these negative expectations need to be turned into positive expectations. But even then, for how long? And I personally think maybe for like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Because now there is going to be some economic growth damage. There's going to be some damage to growth in many, 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 many countries. Because now they have to rebuild in the Middle East a lot of these energy facilities, and a lot of the shipping routes need ships to go through them again on a regular basis. So it's not going to be so straightforward to get a recovery from this. So while there definitely can easily be a relief rally, if what CNN says is true, that Pakistan is able to get some kind of ceasefire agreement between Trump and Iran, if what CNN says is true, I would expect a relief rally, and then I would expect a fade 1 to 3 weeks out from that. Because then CPIs are going to release, GDPs are going to release, PMIs are going to release, flash PMIs are going to release. And it's not going to paint a very pretty picture. It's going to be quite bad for several months, probably up until the fall, up until the middle to the end of Q3. That's when I start to expect a more meaningful return to more nominal trade plans, like just going short the dollar, that sort of thing. But for a while here, we're going to have pretty bad relative growth and relative inflation between a lot of different countries. And when you have really bad growth, really high inflation, central banks stay on hold, a lot of money goes to safe haven assets. And one of the strongest, most popular safe haven assets is the US dollar. So it makes sense in my mind that, again, even if we get the relief rally and DXY goes down to 99, like all the way down to here, even sub 99 for a bit, I would be open to fading that. And until we get confirmation of what CNN says is actually true, then the current expectation is still for the US to go and hit Iran and for this to jump up. Because remember, the reason why dollar is weak right now is because of the proposed deal between Pakistan doing a negotiation as successfully as they possibly can between Iran and the United States as the last minute, last ditch effort here. So if Pakistan can't do it and the US starts blowing up energy and transportation infrastructure that doesn't have, human shields around it, right? Then you're going to end up with the Houthis getting involved, because that was the condition that the Houthis set for getting involved into this conflict. At that point, the Bab el-Mandeb is going to close because they will start attacking ships in support of the Iranians to put more economic pressure on the rest of the world in order to try and suppress the United States attacks, which actually might do the opposite. It might encourage people to start getting involved more seriously and to actually support the United States more directly in order to finish the U.S. operation more quickly. But it will have an immediate negative economic impact. And when people need to move money to a safe haven, they very frequently choose the US dollar. I mean, if you sell your equities and you go into a cash position, a lot of equities are held in US dollars. And so when you exit those positions, you're doing a trade equity for dollar. You are buying US dollars. And because it'll also impact energy prices, it's not just the US dollar that'll likely go up, it's also crude oil. So while crude has been more or less sideways here for a bit, I'd expect above 120 very, very quickly. We can check it out for the month. Yeah, it's already in a very volatile spot. So we have a two-way setup here. And I do not like, personally, two-way setups, where we have a clear expectation to the upside that can realize if what CNN says is true about Pakistan being able to negotiate a deal, a ceasefire deal with Iran and the United States. That would provide a lot of relief to the world, because part of that negotiation, I assume, would be two things. Iran gives up their uranium, all their enriched uranium, and they open up the Strait of Hormuz, free passage, no tolls. The other end of it is if Pakistan fails, or what CNN currently reports is a lie, like we kind of expect right now, Ari. We want to see more confirmation, essentially. Not necessarily that they're lying. We want to see more confirmation. if there is more confirmation that what CNN says is actually true, then we should see all these assets, risk-on assets, start to appreciate. Oil should fall, dollar should fall. That's what we'd expect on that. Now, if what they say is false, if they're bullshitting us, then what we need to do is actually expect the status quo so far to continue for the last 2 weeks. Stronger oil, stronger dollar, weaker equity indices, so NQ would continue to fall because energy prices would rise again. ES, which is S&P, would also be expected to fall. A lot more assets would be expected to go risk off, because the Bab el-Mandeb would be closed if these attacks actually occurred. The Houthis would be getting involved on the side of the Iranians. I mean, I kind of am repeating myself, but it's a matter now of just honing in the point on, okay, if this is true, we're going up, we're going risk on, very simple. And if this is bullshit, we're going risk off, which is how people have been positioned for the last couple weeks here. A lot of people, not everybody. If you read BofA's reports, they have a few reports on positioning of portfolio managers, of asset managers, and they've actually started to rotate a little bit more risk on, but it's just kind of the beginning of the rotation. There's actually a lot of managers, a lot of asset managers. Steno Larsen is another guy who's like, hey, we're at these really far extremes now in a lot of these different asset classes. It's probably time to take the counter trend trade at this point. And he could be right, especially if Pakistan is successful here. It'd be really convenient timing. It'd be quite a coincidence and very, very nice for those asset managers. However, if it doesn't happen, they're going to be in a drawdown. If they actually executed those trade ideas, they will be in a drawdown. For how long and how serious? Well, for however long and how serious it was that all these pieces of infrastructure in the Middle East got destroyed. So if it's going to take a long time to get all this infrastructure back in operational, then it's going to take a long time for them to get out of drawdown if they hold and hold and hold and hold. Because remember, there's a longer term expectation, right? We have our kind of bi-directional setup here for the immediate future, right? If the US and Iran makes a deal before the US commits to attacking energy and transportation infrastructure in Iran, or they don't make the deal. But looking a month or 2 or 3 or 4 past this immediate event over the next couple of weeks and its ramifications, the rest of the world is going to be hit hard on growth, on inflation, and a lot of central banks are going to remain tight, on hold, or hike. It's very much not a growth burgeoning environment. It's not very productive for growth. So a lot of assets are going to do terrible, or like Bitcoin for the last few weeks, just kind of hold going sideways, right? Because if you look at Bitcoin, it has been doing that. It's been doing exactly that. You can check it out, right? It's just been stuck here. It's been stuck here. I had a nice little trade actually catching the freaking bottom of this thing. That was fun. And I made money there. That was nice. But we've been stuck for literally 2 months going sideways, right? From February 6th to April 7th, 2 months. It's not been doing a whole lot. Maybe it goes into the low 70s. Actually, I'd expect it to go a bit higher. Maybe back to this prior swing high. Or past it a bit on good news if the negotiation actually turns out to be successful. But if not, Bitcoin's probably more in a setup to stay sideways. Right? Don't get me wrong, the dollar is going to get stronger, but against Bitcoin, I don't know how much stronger, frankly. I don't know what the relative kind of impulse or correlation is. And because Bitcoin's been going sideways for a while, it's not necessarily been the hedge people have been buying or making since all this stuff started, right? Bitcoin's been more or less sideways this entire time. Since Operation Epic Fury, way over here. Right? This is when Operation Epic Fury began. And we've been effectively in a 10K range between 66 and 76. And until something changes that fact, I will continue to expect that we stay in that range. I mean, if the Houthis get involved, is that going to make Bitcoin go lower? Maybe. Again, I would like to see Bitcoin go into lower 60s or even the 50s. Just because I don't mind buying more Bitcoin, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would also not mind buying more Bitcoin. But, you know, to the few who actually own Bitcoin still, and have, right, have been owning Bitcoin for a long, long time. I mean, if you're not used to these big moves by now, right? If you haven't been, if you've only been buying Bitcoin in the last year and you're listening to me, like, you gotta listen to more people talk about Bitcoin and these rides, these wild rides Bitcoin goes through. Because it's definitely not for the faint of heart, to say the least. Oh man, what other assets can we check out in the meantime? Wow, all these US sectors are down. Is defense? No, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity right now is the best performing sector here. Let's see here. And then semiconductors are doing well. Transportation is also doing fairly okay. The energy sector did all right today. I don't expect this to actually continue to do terribly well forever. But this is for the United States, I think. This is the energy sector in the US. So I'd expect it to do relatively a-okay. Video games. Technology's doing okay. It hasn't been doing so well this year, frankly. And a lot of things in tech can get put on hold if, you know, what is it? Semiconductors? Yeah, there it is. Look, semiconductors can probably go higher. It probably can go higher. All right. But the question isn't, I wouldn't say that the correct question is like, yeah, can it go higher or can it go lower? I think the smarter thing is, okay, do we understand the ramifications from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and what extra expected ramifications we can anticipate could happen to semiconductors if the Bab el-Mandeb also closed? I think those would be the smarter questions to ask. And we already know a lot of semiconductor facilities are already freaking out, running low on supplies. They're pulling, supplies from everywhere that they can, and they're doing a good job. It's just a matter of if these straits stay closed for prolonged periods of time, those reserves run out that they have, or they're not able to get alternative supply established over the next little while here. I don't necessarily know if that would be good for semiconductors, because you want to see higher volume. You don't just want to see the same unit sold for more money, because there is quite high and inelastic demand. You don't necessarily, you want growth. You want to see the company getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and selling more units and making more money, because there's more demand. But when the demand grows and the supply stays the same or shrinks a bit, you suddenly can't satisfy the entire market's demand. You actually leave money off the table, because if you sell your product for really high, unreasonable costs, you end up just pricing more people out to make up for whatever shortfall you have. But because things are quite inelastic, you can probably get away for that in this business, right? I am speculating about the economics here, but I would love to see some analysis actually from an expert. I'm sure there's someone on Substack who's like gone over every single little itsy bitsy tiny thing, all the inputs that go into the manufacturing process of all these semiconductor facilities. And then the bigger losers here are consumer staples, which would be hurt more if the Bab el-Mandeb closed than the Strait of Hormuz closed, actually. Because 12% of all global trade goes through the Bab el-Mandeb, and vis-a-vis the Suez Canal, right? Like you brought up. Suez Canal is just the north part of the Red Sea. Bab el-Mandeb is the south part of the Red Sea. But if you close that off, a lot of consumer products suddenly are hit hard, because it's not just products that are part of that 12% of shipping that gets cut off, that the Houthis are threatening to cut off if the United States actually goes into Iran. And by into, I mean at the end of today or sometime tomorrow, starts blowing up energy and transportation facilities and infrastructure. The Houthis said that they'll start attacking ships and they'll close off the Bab el-Mandeb if the U.S. starts doing those attacks, which they've now promised to start in like the next less than 24 hours from now. So if the Houthis cut off and close the Bab el-Mandeb, 12% of all global shipping shuts down. And it's not just consumer goods, it's all sorts of stuff. There's a whole mix of products that are in that 12% that gets cut off. And some of that will be precursor stuff that goes into Europe or Africa or wherever else that then gets turned into final products that then gets sent to the United States or somewhere else. So there are going to be some businesses that rely on some kind of supplies in order to create their final products. And those businesses are also going to have less supply available, less final goods available. So you can see potential risks to higher inflation So same argument for the semiconductor guys as these guys in consumer staples. Oh, what's that, Ari? AU and EU at 4 hourly for ads. Oh, we can check that out. Yeah, potentially. The yield spreads are quite positive here on the day. That's interesting. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I 100% see what you mean. Do. Yeah. I see what you mean. I wouldn't object, frankly, because the deal is supposed to be. I think the time frame for the deal is over in less than 2 hours, an hour and 50 minutes now. Man, it's kind of dry in here. Maybe I should turn on the air conditioning. I mean, I'll end the stream shortly here. I don't know how much longer I'll go, but maybe I should just turn on the air conditioning now to make sure it's working. So just give me 1 sec. Okay. I'm back. Get that bit off my nose. I was like, just reflexively using my hand. Okay. But yeah, I would not object to being short here. It's just right off the bat, right at the beginning of the day. You want to be careful shorting like the very, very first bar. I generally prefer like to have my top somewhere in the first third of the time frame. So for the day, I like to have the top somewhere or the bottom somewhere in the first third, because then you have the other 2/3 for the thing to run. But sometimes just gotta take a shot. It's just, don't size so high. Don't size terribly. Yeah, that's not what I do. Don't want to size so high. I don't like oversizing. Make sure to size appropriately. That's what I do. Size appropriately. What else is in? Nvidia. Nvidia doing okay. Nvidia's doing pretty all right here. For the last little bit. Amazon also had a couple of deals announced. They locked in a deal with USPS for their shipping. Chevron's doing all right. Man, things are holding up here for Apple. Let's check out the rest of the commodities. Cocoa, oh, smokes. Cocoa's not doing so great. Coffee is doing not so great at the moment. WTI, uranium, platinum, a lot of these commodities are doing horribly. Soybeans actually have been doing pretty fine. They've been sideways for a while here. Copper, not so great, but recovering a bit. Gasoline. This is gasoline futures. Look at that. Gasoline futures are up 45%. Gasoline. What's that song? Gasolina? Gold holding up. Wow, the thing spiked from 5,000 all the way to 4,100 and then bounced back to 4,700. Oh, man. That's a lot of volatility for gold. That's for sure. That's a lot of volatility for gold. That's not so fun, actually. That's not a lot of fun. Let's see. Iron ore. Iron ore is actually doing really well. Iron ore has been up 9%, roughly 8.9%, since Operation Epic Fury began. Holy smokes. And silver, a lot less volatile, still holding 70. Whole milk powder falling through because they actually sell, New Zealand sells a lot of this whole milk powder into the Arab countries and Asia. So a decent amount of demand got cut off because they actually deliver into the Persian Gulf. So they're down 8% here. Wheat futures. Wheat's doing okay. Wheat might actually go up if there's a particularly hard time with fertilizer. And fertilizer is actually right here. And we have to look at this on a slightly different chart. Chart type. We are up 35% on fertilizer. Oh man, that's not gonna make food any cheaper, man. That's not gonna make food any more affordable. Oh man, that's bad. That's bad. That's gonna hurt inflation. All this stuff is gonna hurt inflation. Rice futures. Well, at least rice is doing okay at the moment. Rice is doing a-okay. It's holding up. But man, it was expensive and it just fell for a year and a half. Man, that was pretty legendary short if you're able to roll those futures consistently. Nat gas. Yeah, you can see. Man, that was insane. Okay, and then we have TTF, right? TTF, also for nat gas. Can I actually add TTF here? Yeah. Let's get TTF up there. So nat gas TTF is up 67%. Dude, everything is going to be... And these prices have now been elevated for 1 month. We're going to see follow through in inflation. We're going to see higher inflation. Coinbase doing okay. iBit doing okay. Strategy is doing okay. Time to check out the premiums on these ETFs. Well, these two ETFs. Time to check out the premiums on these two. XRP doing okay. Sol is up 4% today. It actually did pretty okay. So I wonder if we'll see a bit more of a proper rebound here. Again, it's going to depend on dollar. A lot of it's going to depend on dollar. Yeah, Litecoin super low volatility. XRP also pretty damn low volatility. XRP has just been crushed since the middle of last year. It's just been getting totally crushed, dude. And it's just now hanging around these prior swing highs. We'll see if it's able to hold up. A lot of people really bullish XRP for a long time, man. Okay. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. And I don't see any messages of like, hey, can you cover this? Can you cover that? So I think I've done a pretty okay job today as far as covering stuff. That one might be interesting. New Zealand. Aussie, New Zealand. Gotta be careful. Gotta be careful around these sort of cross pairs. You really gotta understand how things work. New Zealand is not as big of an economy as Australia. About this EuroCAD. Yeah, these yield spreads are still quite positive, eh? Yeah, man. Okay. I'll go ahead and grab some lunch. Now that we've gone ahead and covered the main risks that are ahead of us in the immediate short term, I'm sure tomorrow we will have some news. We'll find out if what CNN said is bullshit or not. And I will absolutely be covering. Yeah, see what I mean? There's this... Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the... At least I fixed it. It's way better than the last stream, right? Way, way better than the last stream. But yeah, we'll be doing another stream tomorrow. Absolutely, for sure. To follow up on this stuff. Because now we've figured out, okay, this is how things are going to go if Pakistan is successful. Here's how things are going to go if Pakistan is not successful. And the U.S. begins their operation of attacking Iranian energy and transportation facilities. And then the Houthis get involved. And then again, if the Pakistanis are successful and we get some kind of ceasefire, we should see a relief rally. Otherwise, probably going to end up with a continuation of some risk off. That'd be my expectation. That definitely would be my expectation. So we're going to have to see if what CNN says is BS or not. But we're gonna wait for confirmation from a few other people. Hopefully, we'll get some leaks. Hopefully, we'll get some public leaks. Maybe Bloomberg will say something. Maybe we'll get a Nikkei leak, right? Or a Bloomberg leak, or a Reuters leak. Something from one of those three institutions. Or what is it? Financial Times. Hopefully, we get something from someone else than just CNN. Or maybe someone is able to prove that they can corroborate the CNN story. And until then, we really just are in a position where we are waiting for the deadline, which is now in about an hour and a half from now. Man, it's going to be an interesting little time to wait. But we're going to have a stream tomorrow, and we're going to cover what happened between now and then. So I'll see you guys in a bit. See you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys had a good day. Hope you guys have luck and some favorable trades over the next 24 hours. So best of luck. Wishing everyone the best, and I'll see you guys in a bit.